Um, Before we begin the discussion, I would like to set the context for what has been given as a very, very important topic for the nation as a whole. Housing for all. A lot of countries across the world have attempted this. Some have managed to achieve that. Singapore is one of them. A few are making good attempts. Countries like Brazil, where they have a scheme called as My Life, My Home, which is essentially something similar to what we call as Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And then there are other countries which attempted, like Canada and other North American countries, but they could not meet all the targeted goals that they had set out. Just some facts and figures. We estimate that there is a housing shortage of roughly about 6 crore units. The level of investments is about 110 to 120 billion that is going on in currently. And the center and the state governments spend about $5 to $6 billion per annum. That's roughly about 1.5% of the total spending in the housing. The current housing shortage in terms of absolute number of units is about 5.9 crore units across the country. Most of it is rural, that's about 4 crores, and urban housing is roughly about 2 crore units. And required housing units by 2022 is an additional 5.5 crore. About 2.5 in urban and 2.5 in rural. So that's a total need of about 10.5 to 11 crore units, and roughly split in the 45 to 55 ratio between urban and rural housing. If I talk about Gujarat, the shortage is about 29 lakh units in the urban sector and about 21 lakh units in the rural sector, which gives a total of roughly about 50 lakh units. We need, as I mentioned, about 11 crore units needs to be developed. That's about an investment of $2 trillion. That's India's current economy today. Over the next 6 years, that needs to be invested into housing. And that brings us to the most critical factor. It needs only about 1.7 to 2 lakh hectares of land. The rest of the land is still available, so there's not too much worry that's there that there's a lot of land grabbing happening and we are encroaching upon rural areas and things like that. So with this sort of a context, given the facts and figures, I'll now pose a few questions to my panel members. First, I'll try to bring in Parth because he's from the real estate industry. Parth, what's your take on the government policies and the incentives that is given towards the housing sector? And specifically the recent income tax announcements that was made in the budget. How do you think it's going to bring about an impetus to the housing sector in the country today?
If I recollect, at the time of elections, our Prime Minister has committed that 50,000 or 50 lakh housing will be done in these 5 years. So he's pretty much on the track. I think the effort the government is making to achieve that target is wonderful, and if it is the way it is, then I'm sure it will be done. Not exactly, but these incentives, what you told, the income tax incentives are there, the special affordable zones are there in the city, and so these all are effort. If I talk about specifically the income tax benefits, so they have restricted the size of the apartment. So I guess the affordability is not in the size of the apartment, it is in the price of the apartment. So there are some, still we are dealing with the cash economy in the industry. So this is the wonderful effort to bring that down also, and it will be the affordable segment is always looking for loan aspect as well. So still there are some benefit upon the bank loans, but they are not enough, I guess. So if so, the efforts are very good, and but there are some lack in
Right.
that
So,
field.
so you think that it's a good beginning, but
Yeah,
a long way to go
a long way
before
to
we
go.
actually kind of
Absolutely.
start realizing the dream. Just touching upon the issue of financing of those houses, ICICI Bank has announced and introduced a scheme which gives a interest subsidy of 6.5% for both rural as well as urban housing under this scheme, up to a maximum of 6 lakh rupees. So that's a first that ICICI has begun with. And I'm sure there are more banks which will line up these sort of schemes to make finance available for housing. Hirenbhai, from your perspective, like Path touched upon, it's all about designing the right product and at the right price. You think that things like higher FSI in the affordable housing zone, and given our infrastructure constraints that we have, is the right way to go about this issue of housing for all?
See, when we talk of these numbers, which are very large, uh, and considering the land prices which are there in the cities, of course, some sort of, when we talk of the bylaws and when we talk of how we are able to actually create the houses which are really needed. If we see 99% of the requirement is in the economically weaker section and LIG, this thing, which actually to make it attractive for because it's for the government alone, it's not possible to build so many houses. So it will have to be a kind of a public-private partnership. And in order that a lot of private developers come into the foray, of course, certain amount of incentive in terms of the FSI or in terms of the mixed land use, or wherever possible, if the commercial angle can be looked into, means use of the land for the commercial usage, etc. These things have to be thought because it will have to be cross-subsidized. So that's very important. But in the past 2-3 years, I have done a lot of housing in this Mukhyamantri Awas, this thing. And we as architects have to follow whatever are the bylaws, which are. Now, I want to throw some light onto that. For example, the units, as you know, the minimum size of the unit which is defined is 30 square meter. And that is all across, the affordable housing. Now, 30 square meter maybe in a place like Ahmedabad may be okay, but for a place like Mumbai, for example, 30 square meter is also a big luxury, actually. That is one aspect. Second is the affordable housing, it talks at the moment, is that the FSI should be minimum 1.8. Now, the major problem is that, I am of the opinion that even though a lot of multi-storied houses have come in the EWS segment, when it comes to the actual usage, maintenance of a lifts are a big issue. So if we have kind of walk-up apartments, means you have a mid-rise and high density, rather than high-rise, high density. So, but you see, the whole approach at the moment when I study the bylaws, it's like those block approach, like you have one block and you put a 4-meter distance between. Now, this is also so funny that if I construct a ground plus one, even then I have to put a 4-meter margin between the two blocks. And if I construct a 25-meter height, up to 25-meter, 4-meter is okay. So I don't understand what is the logic behind it.
From
So
my
there are a
limited,
lot of, I can further elaborate, but I think you can.
that's a very fairly valid point. From my limited experience in this industry, I think that the 4-meter bylaw, the setback is for the movement of fire tender, whether it's one building or one full high rise, but that's how it needs to be done. Now when we are mentioning that these affordable housing schemes need to be in urban areas because a large demand of it, close to 45% is going to be in urban areas. And given the land prices in urban areas, it really becomes difficult for developers as well as the government to achieve the willingness to pay that Jakshay mentioned for a housing unit. So which essentially means that these projects will be pushed out of the city. So like Rocky did a project in Changodar. So it's going to be pushed out to the industrial areas or the areas which are the peripheral areas of the city. And then it brings down a very, very important issue of commute. You know, how are people going to commute to work, wherein we have inadequate transport systems, and you know, things like buses, metro, etc. doesn't really exist in this country. It's good for a city like Singapore where they pushed out people to Jurong and then asked them to take a metro every day to work if they wanted to come to the central part of Singapore. So I would now like to bring in my friend into picture and ask him whether you know, these kind of peripheral areas of the city, you think the commute and the affordability and the time to commute is going to really play a major important role in giving housing for all?
Yeah, definitely, you know, the word itself, affordable by and housing by 2022. To me, it sounds something like, you know, 2022 target that has been set by Doha in reference to the FIFA World Cup, or the 2022 by the Dubai for the Expo. So it is achievable, why not? And it can be by different ways of planning, or, you know, by urban plannings, and what more stalwarts like Mr. Gandhi can tell. You know, I'm not much into designing, but I'm from a technological perspective, I would say it is achievable. When we work for consultants and, you know, contractors, big construction companies, and especially in the Middle East, if we talk, we meet them and we discuss the project, and when the deal is about to be signed, we ask them, when do you need that? You know, when do you want us to deliver the first schedule? And they say yesterday. So they believe that it could be done yesterday, and they want it yesterday. So that is where the technology comes into picture, and that is where we help them out. It's a problem, and we are here to give the best solution, whatever best we can do as per the technology is available. And there, the what I said, BIM, you know, as we say, building information modeling, that comes into picture. So the technology, I know, I probably assume that most of you are aware, is beyond just creating a 3D model. It's the eye that is in the BIM that has the information, and it is the intelligent part, you know. And as we saw in the previous AVs, that the companies, they create the chemistry. So the chemistry is very much necessary between the stakeholders, right from the design stage, whether it's concept or schematic design. You know, we have observed earlier that designers, they work in silos. Maybe the architects, they come up with their design, and then, of course, they might be in communication and coordination with the structural designers. But probably when it comes down to installation of services, there are many issues observed on site. Of course, things are improving, but this is a general belief and what we have been seeing. So in this case, in the planning stage itself, we come across creating a technical model which is clash-free, which has been coordinated between all the stakeholders. And from that, we can get, of course, we can get good visualized images, you know, what the perception is right now, but at the same time, go on to getting a clash-free model. From there, we get the estimation. You know, we have all the parameters set in the model, and from there, we get the quantities which are 95+ accurate in percentage. further move on to creating the drawings and then take it on to project management and scheduling. That is fourth dimension, the time. So we do it that way so we can plan the project and also monitor. This is for the proposed build, and similarly for as built we have similar kind of arrangements.
You touched upon a very valid subject, which is technology. Given that we need such a humongous amount of construction to be done by 2022, and if one just runs the sheer maths at an average housing size of roughly about 50 square meters and about 10 crore units to be done, that itself would roughly be the amount of construction that we would have done in the last 60 years of our independence. So that's the kind of maths that we are talking of, which brings into play my friends on my right-hand side. Nilotpal, you think our construction technology, our skill set, and the designs, etc., are adequate enough to meet this housing demand, or do you think we will need to innovate a whole lot more to achieve this demand?
Yeah, when you look at the humongous figure of almost, if you calculate from today to 2022, when we reach 75 years of independence, you're looking at around 45,000 to 50,000 units a day. Yeah. So then obviously it comes to the mind that is there some chemistry involved in material sciences which is basically not dealt with so seriously. I mean, it is dealt, but it's only dealt with high end. But when you need to accelerate the growth, yeah, of 40,000 units a day, then you got to think in terms of precast. Yeah. So precast is something which we have done in bits and pieces, possibly in India, but let's say in the European sector or even in Singapore. Yeah, having lived myself in Singapore for almost 5-6 years, I've seen the advent of precast taking quite a good shape there, and that blended. So basically, methodology blended with material sciences. How can you make concrete be placed faster? Yeah, considering also the availability of materials. So if you got to consider about 40 to 50,000 units, a day, are materials available to that extent, quality materials, because what you need to build is also need to be durable. So in terms of even the sand or the aggregate, forget about the cement, because you need to also multiply the cement production to that extent. And then you combine that with some chemistry which makes placement easier, which sort of self-cures or self-heals, okay? I don't want to go into that detail of chemistry, but those technologies have been used, even in India, I can tell you. Just off the track, that we were also involved in helping a slum rehab, cutting down 30% of the time. Now, these are 2 projects, but I'm sure if they are replicated with the consensus of ABCDE together, that is architects, builders, contractors, engineers, developers, etc., then I'm sure you can accelerate the process and build an expertise in the next 2 years. So that's part of the material. Then we talk about the skill set. Skill set in terms of development of the mason, yeah, at the grassroots level is very important. So there should be an education system or skills, skill development system, which should be driven by the industry. It is driven in parts and pieces, but I think you need to accelerate, because if you need to achieve those numbers. Again, going back further, in my uni days, studying civil engineering, material sciences were all about only how do you manufacture bricks. Today, construction technology, concrete technology has gone beyond that. It requires things to be durable for a longer period of time, and it has to be put into the uni systems as well. Yeah, so that's my view. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a very interesting perspective. Amit, you think that our material supply industry, and when I say material supply, all the finishing materials like tiles and PVC pipes and electrical wires and things like that, is the entire industry geared up to supply this huge demand, or it's always going to be a catch-up game that the industry intends to play?
Yeah. last year when our Honorable Prime Minister announced this scheme, so 1 year already gone. And now the scheme for this 2 crore houses to be built up, 20 million houses to be built up by 2022. So this is the basically, since 1 year already gone, and now we have to think, there are few challenges, money, labor, construction. This can be managed, and we are really geared up for this. I think government has planned before announcing all these schemes. But the issue is, land can be acquired. But the major thing in this, after acquiring the land and to start the project, it takes, what we have seen in the past, it takes minimum 1 to 3 years, 2.5 years time to start the construction. And then after this, 2 to 3 years it takes in constructing a particular project. So it's basically 5 years. Means if we start from today, already 1 year gone, 5-6 years left. So 20 million houses to be completed in just left for 5-6 years. It seems we have to do some aggressive way, or we have to think in a different way. As far as we are concerned, we have already planned, we have already started working on this, and we have done a lot of planning on that. As far as we are concerned in tile industry, we have met all the government officials and corporates in past. We have planned what we have to, we don't want, because it's affordable housing. It's affordable. First of all, the question is also coming, what is affordable? Affordable is of 12 lakh to 16 lakhs is affordable for them, or the house servant or a driver, it's a 4 to 6 lakhs is affordable. So that is also a question. So we don't want to give any low quality product or any cheap quality product for this. We have developed few sizes and few designs just to service these affordable housing, which are very good in quality. We have reduced the production cost by having mass productions, big plants. Already we have installed. And apart from that, we have worked on a very marginal pricing, where we can supply the material at a very marginal contributions. And keeping in view all this, we have also started CSR. As far as the responsibility is concerned, CSR training program. It's called a Tile Master. So we have also working that how to lay the tiles, how to reduce the wastage, how to reduce the cost of laying the tiles. So we have also worked on this so that we can reduce the cost in this economic, or we can say affordable housing. These are the factors which we have considered while supporting the government or for this noble cause of the affordable housing or housing for all. The government has also supported us in last year. They have reduced the VAT this year by reducing VAT from 15% to 5%. So this is also one of the good news for the direct consumers. And we have passed on these benefits to consumers. But the issue is we are ready, we as the manufacturers are ready with this. But how this 20 million houses will be made in just these 6 years, is really a challenge.
Thank you. Very interesting thought, which I'll park for the moment, is the issue of taxation. I'll come back to that in a little while. But Hiren Bhai, he touched upon the subject of using precast into construction to hasten up the whole process. How far have you incorporated precast into your design process itself, so that, and from the projects that you have done for the Mukhyamantri Awas Yojana, how far has the whole process of precast technology been successful in this country?
See, definitely this target what we are talking, say 40 to 45,000 houses per day. You see, precast is the only answer, because unless you mass produce quality product, you know, whether it be in terms of lintel, be it in terms of the window frames, door frames, etc. And you have a mode of speedy construction, you know, ready elements which can be erected. It's going to be very, I want to also touch upon other issues, like any project which goes beyond 20,000 square meters now. So that also requires environment clearance. So apart from the construction process itself, getting the clearances for the projects, that also some device has to be done. That how to get, I think, starting from the conceptual to the project when it gets onto the real construction, there also a lot of time is going in all the approvals and a lot of other things. So that is one part. And of course, a lot of new things like this MESCON already, with MESCON technology, a lot of houses have been built. Then that Wafflecrete is there where you have these wall technology and wall and all the elements which are precast. And we have now good products in the Aerocon blocks, flash bricks. So there are products, but this the demand itself is phenomenal. So I don't know, there is no ready answer, but because it is also the production of material, then the erection for the same, and then giving a quality, and then also creating a good living environment. Ultimately, you are not just building pigeonholes, you know. So it's a humongous.
Right. Given that the projects that you do in the Middle East and other areas, have you been fairly successful in using precast technology to meet this type of demand that we are foreseeing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, precast is one of the best options that the developers or the contractors go for in the Middle East, especially because they want to erect within a certain time frame, and the technology also supports it. After erection, even there might be, to finish it up, there will be just a glass facade. We were discussing about the pros and cons, and then they come up with getting analysis done for, say, how can we save the energy. So that's totally a different perspective. You using the glass facade, entire glass in the hot countries, and then discussing about saving energies and making measures. But yes, precast has been successfully implemented. We work on quite few projects. Not only that, one of the biggest infrastructure company, from Dubai, they have set up their office in Bangalore, and they have come up with a production unit nearby. We are working with them. We have a kind of JV with them. So they have started up with manufacturing of precast elements, government contract of around first lot of 100 schools they are to build in a year or so. So that is the approach they are already, they have taken up, and that shows that it can be further taken ahead. What we do, technically when we create, it goes on to machines that are manufacturing the precast elements. And the integration is done via German software, from the BXML file, what we call and all. And then you can give a unique number to each and every element. So to answer the question of Mr. Niptal, he said, educating the workers, you might just make them aware about what element they need to pick up on a certain day and take it on the site and install. So the technology and management is both a combination on such kind of projects.
Right. I heard two of my panel members touch upon approvals being one of the biggest roadblocks. I'd like to ask Parth, how do you think you can tackle the whole process, because you do it day in and day out, to meet this humongous demand? What do you think are the measures that the government should take to hasten up the whole process of giving approvals to projects?
If talking about the approvals, of course the process is very slow. It is still good in Ahmedabad or in Gujarat comparing to other country, but still we are facing such, we need the CREDAI and GAHED is always aiming upon the one window clearance, single window clearance type of methodology. But let's see, the RERA has one more obstacle in front of us. Not kind of obstacle, but there is one more window to clear. So it's always getting delayed. We purchase a land and we put up a project. It always, before it was taking 1 or 2 months, but right now it's more than 6 months time, 6 months of time. But I just want to add something on this precast thing, that of course there is a technology, but it is not a complete solution for high rises. If we go for precast, we can go up to the whole building of precast. We can go up to 4 to 5 story building. If we want to go up to 7 or 14 story building, then we have to combine two methodology of cast in situ and precast. So yes, of course, we can do some elements precast and the rest of. So that's how we can enhance the speed of construction. And my fellow panelist is there for new technologies.
And you can also, everybody of us underestimates the power of steel. Steel is one big, very factor which can help you go high rise along with